What's going on, guys? So Dell just quick shipped me my new heatsink here, and I'm about to swap it out and see if it fixes my thermal issues. So this is what they sent me here, and I noticed that the screws they sent me are the Torx head, so I don't think those are the right screws. But I'm gonna see if they'll fit. Here's the new heatsink. They sent me. It already comes with the thermal paste applied, so you can see how they kind of apply it. They spread it all over there. Not bent, as you can see, nice and flat, no bends. So good job on Dell's part getting that to me only in 2 days. So here we go. Wish me luck. Gonna install it now. Alright, so we got the heatsink pulled. There's the new one. I'm gonna scrape off Dell's thermal paste there. We've already got our thermal pads installed. I'm also gonna leave these pads, thermal pads on, and leave my other ones on as well, with the intent to hopefully transfer some more heat to the bottom shell of the laptop there. So as always, make sure you unplug the battery before you start messing around with anything under the hood. So we're about to install this, and hopefully it's a good fit here. Looks like the holes line up a lot better on this heatsink. I was told not to tighten them too much, so I'm just going to get it snug. I did the 5, 4, 3, and then I'll do the 2 and the 1. And it appears that these Torx screws do also thread into that. All right, looks like everything's good to be put back together. Plug the battery back in now. Pop in our RAM. Give it a once over. Everything looks good. Go ahead and finish putting all these torque screws in and boot it up. Alright guys, so we've got it booted up here after the thermal pad swap and the new heatsink. I'm using a program called Throttlestop instead of Intel XTU now. It gives you a little bit more options to play with. So I'm just going to give you a rundown of what I'm using in Throttlestop. I can tell already there's a pretty significant difference since I booted it up. My fans haven't even turned on, and it's been really quiet, and that's a big difference from before, where it would run the fans on startup and shortly after startup before they would kind of ramp down there. So we're in Throttlestop here. We're going to go to FIVR here. And what we're going to look for is the CPU core, cache, and Intel GPU. I've undervolted mine right here. You're going to click unlock adjustable voltage, and then you're going to move it to wherever, whatever best fits your CPU here. I just have a minus 85 millivolt undervolt on the core, cache, and Intel GPU, the integrated graphics there. So you'll want to click on save voltages immediately after you find your sweet spot. You'll want to leave it on do not save voltages if you're going to really fine tune it to get that sweet spot, or as much as you can, because it will eventually restart or blue screen, and then you'll have to go back in here and just increase it a little bit. So after you find where you want to leave it, then you can click on the OK, save voltages immediately. We'll get out of that. Some options in here. I'm going to click on start minimize, minimize on close. Your NVIDIA GPU there you can click on, or if you have a AMD you can click on that. So that's going to be good. So you can see right here I'm idling about 40 degrees, which is great. Before it was about 58, and that's a pretty significant improvement there. So I think with the new heatsink it really took care of my throttling issues, but we're going to run a test and see just to make sure there. So in here, that's pretty much all you need to do with Throttlestop. And then if you want to make sure that it opens on startup, let's see, so minimize, I go minimize on close, so when I close it, it's minimized there. So we'll go to task, scheduler here, create basic task. We're going to name it Throttlestop. Next, we'll want to trigger when I log on. Start a program. We'll browse for it here. Throttlestop. Just wherever it saved on your PC, that's where you're gonna select it from. Just make sure that you find the application there. Throttlestop application right there. So we're going to hit next. Open properties dialog, and there's a few things that we need to check in here. So under general, we're going to click on run with highest privileges. We're going to change this to Windows 10. Triggers at log on, actions, start. We want to, under power, start the task only if the computer's on AC. We'll uncheck that, which will gray that box out too. You can uncheck that, check that. Settings, stop the task if it runs longer than 3 days. We'll uncheck that. If running task is not in, we'll uncheck that. History, okay, so that's good. And there's our task. So it should automatically run whenever you log in there. All right, so we got our Throttlestop running there. And we're gonna jump back into the Intel XTU there just to run their stress test. Okay, so we're gonna CPU stress test for 5 minutes here. And we're going to be looking at we're going to be watching the package temperature here. So I'm guessing that we'll eventually get some thermal throttling here. With a laptop this thin and as much power as it packs, I would imagine we're not going to get rid of all the thermal throttling. Even though my 5-year-old XPS L502X, I just recently replaced that thermal paste with these thermal pads, and I ran the same test and it never throttled at once, but that's also 3 times as thick. So we can see here that it's looking like we're starting to get some thermal throttling here, and really, like I said, that's going to be expected. And maybe if you guys want to spend some time undervolting, as much as you can, you might really limit your throttling there. So package temperature looks like it's kind of bouncing around a little bit. Before I did this with my bum heatsink there, it was staying around 97, 98, 99 the whole stress test. So it's kind of bouncing. I see 95, 96, but it's kind of dropping down to 84, 82, 85 there. So I think that's kind of where it's staying at. Yeah, it's looking, it's looking like it's always falling back to the 84, 85 there. I think it might just be spiking into the 90s there, but it looks like it's really staying around 85 there. So I'm seeing the power limit throttling there, kind of going on and off, and I'm wondering if that's probably from our undervolting. So I might need to increase that a little bit and maybe bring it to minus 75 instead of 85. That's probably what that is. But yeah, as you can see, it's the thermal throttling has shut off there. We've got our fans ramped up now, and looks like it's staying in the 80s, which is excellent. I'm happy about the heatsink install. That Dell sent me there. It was a replacement heatsink there. So happy with the install. Everything went in great. It seems like these thermal pads, I'll show them again. Funny thing is I didn't know how big these were. Right here, this is what I'm using, the IC graphite thermal pad. And I ordered one, and Amazon sent me 3. So I got 2 more of these, you know, and just in the one, and I still have this much extra that gave me enough for this laptop and my old L502X that I had to crack open and apply that on. So got some extra there, but as you can see, thermal throttling has ceased. We're still getting that power limit throttling a little bit there, but this is, you know, this is telling me that everything is running awesome right now. Package temperatures kind of settled down. We're still hovering in the low 80s to mid 80s there mostly. We can see our max core frequency is sticking around 3.85, which is huge compared to the 2.5 or 2.5, you know, what I was getting with my bum heatsink there. So, you know, thermal throttling showing its face a little bit here and there, but overall I think this was a success. You know, it was a shame that I had to go through that. Glad I noticed it though, but Dell was quick to respond. The guy that I talked to was very helpful. He also had an engineer that he was constantly in talks with while we were talking about what to do, and he was very grateful that I was going to attempt to do the swap myself instead of, you know, ultimately returning my laptop. So they were kind of, you know, him and the engineer were both very happy that I decided to do this heatsink myself. And you know, they really, you know, were thanking me that I was going to do this myself, and they wish that all their customers that they get would attempt to resolve some of their issues. So I mean, I know a lot of people were worried about warranty and stuff, but they were all about sending me my replacement heatsink and letting me do this. I told them about my Wi-Fi issues, and they, you know, I told them what I went through with Killer and my previous XPS 13 there, and they, you know, totally agreed that at least the guy I was talking to totally agreed that the Wi-Fi card has had a ton of issues, and they are, you know, sending out Intel replacements. But the engineer did mention that this laptop should not crest 95 degrees Celsius. So when I told him it was, you know, cresting 99 degrees, then he was like, okay, we have a huge issue here. And then, you know, confirmed that they're going to ship me out the new heatsink. So, you know, if it was any worse of an experience with Dell on the phone, you know, I would have ended up probably just returning the laptop. But, you know, right away the guy was very helpful and very informative. You know, I told him I was missing the screws, and he said, I'll make sure I pack the screws too. All I had to do really is email him my service tag and a few photos of the damaged heatsink there, and I will have to return the heatsink in the box that they shipped the new one in, so I'll have to return that to him. But again, you know, I just did the thermal test there, and really happy with where it's sitting now. As you can see, package temp is in the 40s. Before it was, you know, mid to upper 50s. So we can already see that this is, you know, having great success with what I ended up doing here. So I'm going to keep my XPS. I'm really happy with it. I didn't want to send it back, and, you know, swapping out the heatsink is pretty easy task on this laptop. So I'm back on, you know, with the team Dell there. Glad they got me fixed up right away. And everything seems to be working excellent right now. You know, I've ran some daily tasks that I usually do, and this, you know, the fans like hardly ever come on. So that's telling me that, you know, it's already doing a much better job of handling the heat, you know, with just that thermal pad. So I would definitely recommend Throttlestop if you want to undervolt a little bit, just to, you know, help it out a little bit, help out those temperatures, keeping them low, just really to improve battery life a little bit. You know, it really helps when you kind of underclock the integrated graphics too. So hope this video helped. some people there. If you guys got a XPS 9570 or even the 9560, this should be okay to refer to, and hopefully you guys can do some repasting yourself and some undervolting, and have great success with your own laptops and squeezing out the best performance out of it and getting a little bit more battery life there. So hopefully my videos helped you guys, and if you got any more questions, let me know. Thanks.